Teen Titans Season 2. Season 2 is my second favorite season of the series. I like it more than the first season, but not more than the other one that I'm not going to mention quite yet. I'll get to that eventually. This season has banger episode after banger episode, with only a couple of not so great ones that you barely even notice because of how good the rest of the season is. Now I'm going to do this video a bit different than the last. The last one I talked generally about the season before jumping into the villains, but this time I have different things about each episode I want to touch on, so instead of a general talk on the season, I'll touch on each individual episode. But I would say this season is probably the fan favorite season. People just love Terra and her whole tragic story.
We're not going to drift apart, Star. I promise. We'll all be friends forever.
So in How Long is Forever, there's confusing time travel stuff going on. Every time you deal with time travel, it gets confusing. No one can agree on how it should work. And in this one, Warp tries to explain it.
Damage? Silly girl. There's nothing wrong with your past. One cannot damage history, because history cannot be changed. I went back in time to steal this because history says it disappeared. And history says it disappeared because I went back to steal it. Past, present, future. It's all written in stone, my dear.
Basically, he's saying whatever happens always happens and you can't change it no matter what. But where I do get confused is, where does future Starfire go? When Starfire tackles Warp through the portal and travels to the future, according to Cyborg, Starfire has been gone for 20 years. But for the Titans back in the past, she reappears almost instantly. Now obviously Starfire does the impossible and is able to change the future, but just because that future is no longer going to happen, that doesn't mean it didn't. And my question is, where did that Starfire go? If she goes 20 years into the future, just like ours did, does she just never find a way back? Does she give up hope that she can change anything like she was about to before Nightwing encouraged her to keep going? It would seem that Starfire going back to her current place in time in the first place is what caused the future to change. So the future Titans that we see, their Starfire must have not been able to find a way back or just didn't return to her time for whatever reason. Another thing I wanted to mention is Nightwing being here at all. I've seen a lot of confusion and debate about what Robin this Robin is in the show, and seen people think it was Tim Drake. But this show has multiple scenes and clues that show very clearly this is Dick Grayson's Robin, this being one of the more obvious ones. This episode also kind of shows that Starfire is the linchpin of this team. She's the glue holding everything together. The second she disappears, apparently the Titans just break up and never talk to each other again. And just her presence alone in the future was enough to get the future Titans back together. This episode also kind of did Beast Boy way too dirty. They mentioned that he tried to do the solo hero thing after the Titans broke up and he got just beat up constantly. He got his ass kicked all the time, which I think is so hard to believe. Beast Boy has such a unique and strong power that he can use in so many different ways and has used in so many different ways. I can't see that him going solo, he just constantly kept taking L's. That's insane thought for me. Now I do like how when we first see future Beast Boy, he's afraid and even turns himself into a chicken, but then later when he gets his confidence and pride back, he shows up as a lion. Nice little symbolism with the use of his powers right there. And also a small thing I wanted to talk about with Nightwing in this episode. I'm not a big fan of the long-haired Nightwing. I know quite a few people do like it. I prefer the short-haired Nightwing we see in the comics and stuff like that. The long hair, it just, I don't know, it's giving Aqualad. The way he looks, it just looks like Aqualad with the mask on. He's still cool. I still like him. I just prefer the shorter hair. And then when it comes to Raven, did the prophecy just not happen? If this takes place 20 years into the future and our current Raven's upcoming birthday is when the prophecy was supposed to be fulfilled, then shouldn't Earth have been a wasteland and have been destroyed and conquered by Trigon? They were barely able to defeat Trigon with all the Titans and even Slade's help. So if Starfire is missing and the Titans have been separated, I find it hard to believe they would have defeated him. Obviously, this is episode 1 of season 2, so I doubt they had the season finale of season 4 planned out at this point, but still.
Dude!
Whoa!
Star, what happened?
History said it disappeared, but history was wrong.
Huh?
Dude, for the last time, I am not your dog!
So Every Dog Has His Day, I would say, is definitely not one of my favorite episodes. It's one of the more weaker ones in the series, but I still have a few things to mention about this episode, like, how does Beast Boy get free? Does he figure out an animal he can turn into to slip free? We know that the collar changes shapes and sizes along with him, but I feel like it can only get so small. so maybe if he turns into like a bug, he can slip out. Because he's been shown to turn into a spider before. I feel like the spider could actually work. Or, what I think is most likely the thing that happened, was the other green dog is the one that set him free, while Soto was fighting the Titans. Still, they don't really show you what happens, you just see him free and just have to accept it. And Soto is a freak, man. His first thought after the dog said he doesn't want to be his pet anymore, he's like, oh, I know, I'll be your pet now. And then he just starts crawling around, barking, rolling, like, bro, what? Like, what kind of freak shit was this show on back in the day?
Run all you like, because no matter where you go, every step brings you closer to me.
So the episode Terra, I mean, I'm going to save most of my thoughts when I compile everything together for the overarching plot line, but I will mention now how much I like the scene where Terra first meets the Titans. It's a charming scene showing how each of the Titans kind of feel and react to Terra throughout the entire season. Beast Boy head over heels, Starfire being super friendly, Robin and Raven being a bit cautious and suspicious, and it also gives us some foreshadowing on her not being able to control her powers, because right where Robin was standing, right as he walks away, it randomly collapses. It's just a small scene that kind of shows us a lot about the season.
My body may have its limitations, but if I put my mind to it, there's no limit to what I can do. After all, I'm only human.
Only Human is a very good episode, and is also similar to some of his parts in a way. They're similar in concept with how both show Cyborg's struggles of being half robot, but some of his parts was more the emotional and personal aspects of being half robot, while Only Human is about the physical aspect and limitations of being half robot. Him no longer being able to push his limits and get stronger like he used to, because his robotic limbs can only do so much and has a cap on what it can do, but him finding a way to break through the ceiling anyway. I also love that scene of him arguing with his reflection, and every time it cuts to him, it shows his robot side of his face, but then when it shows his reflection, it's the human side. And I like to think the reason the human side was his reflection is because that's not only how everyone sees him, but also how he deep down still sees himself as Only Human. Now, it's cool for Robin and the other Titans to cheer Cyborg on and root for him, but they nearly got him killed doing so. Sure, cheer him on and give him time to try and push himself, but then after a bit, when you see him failing and he's telling you he can't do it, you should probably listen to him, because he damn near got crushed.
I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. I am afraid.
Now, Fear itself, amazing episode, one of my favorites. It's just such a different episode than the rest. It has such a different vibe. The horror aspect is done so well, even the episode Haunted doesn't do it like this one. There's not much I wanted to say about this one because it's damn near a perfect episode, but there is one small detail I'd like to touch on, and that's this room that they run into in the tower. This room just has nothing in it but a huge drop. The second they run inside, they just start falling. Why do the Titans have a room in their tower that leads nowhere, has nothing, and just leads to a drop? What's the purpose of this room? It makes no sense that this room even exists.
Kitten, was it?
Meow.
Right. Will you go with me to the prom?
Daddy's working, kitten.
So Date with Destiny. I actually really enjoy Date with Destiny. When I was getting back into the show and was going to rewatch it, I remember not being too excited for this episode and not feeling too fond of it, but after watching it again, I love it. It's super funny. I love seeing how jealous Starfire was and how over the top she was being. And the whole girl's name being Kitten and Killer Moth being her father just leads to the awkward dialogue of having Killer Moth call her Kitten and having her call him Daddy the whole episode. And this episode just shows how much has changed since then and how different context around certain words can be. One thing about this episode that has me scratching my head is Starfire uses her eye lasers before she's supposed to get them. She literally gets them in the next episode, so she shouldn't have them here. Now, her jealousy was causing her to do some crazy outrageous shit, so maybe she was just that mad that she just started doing the impossible.
I'm your friend, Starfire. I don't care how you look. Besides, you look fine to me.
Transformation is kind of similar to Every Dog Has His Day, in the way that it's a weaker episode from the series. Don't get me wrong, I love every episode, this one and Every Dog Has His Day included. Just compared to the other episodes in the series and other episodes in this season, they just don't stack up as well. As an episode, Transformation is about Starfire's, well, transformation. Every Tamaranian has one, but that is where I start to question why Starfire doesn't know what's happening to her while it was happening. She's the princess of Tamaran, so you'd think she would have heard or seen a Tamaranian transformation at least once. She even mentions Blackfire's transformation and how it just turned her purple, so why'd she have no clue what was happening to her and needed an alien to tell her? I feel like since she knows of transformation, and she knows she hasn't had hers already, you would feel she would have realized what was happening. I do like how we get that tidbit about Blackfire and how she's already had her transformation. Nice nice little line to explain real quick why Blackfire was shooting eye lasers when Starfire couldn't in the episode Sisters, and why Blackfire seemed to be stronger than her in that episode as well. Also, since Blackfire is the older sister, it would make sense that she would have had hers before Starfire. This episode is also the first we see of Plasmus's new design. After he falls right into a pit of whatever that green shit is, he changes, or I guess you could say he transforms, into a more round monster with a bunch of green eye looking things. I think this design is way more unique. The last one was more basic looking, and the last one just looked like Pokemon gave Muck a new evolution. But there's something about the first design that I like more. The new one looks more unique, but the older one looks a little cooler to me for some reason.
I don't believe it. They actually trust me.
In Titans Rising, it starts off with a scene of the Titans, minus Raven, playing volleyball. There are a few things I have to say about this scene alone. One is, this is just one small instance on why this show and team works so well. They don't need to add scenes like these. They could have easily just had the Titans sitting around in the tower like usual, or maybe out fighting a villain of the week when Terra shows back up, but instead, they had them all together, playing volleyball, just chilling, not as a team, but as a group of friends. Even Raven was up there, even though she was just meditating off to the side by herself and not playing with them, she still chose to be up there with them. I'm just so glad they have moments like this, because again, they really don't have to, but because they do, it really does show that outside of the team and outside of stopping crime and being heroes, they really are a group of friends. Now, a few small things from this scene I'd like to mention are, Robin inviting Raven in the first place to play with them, while being a nice gesture, would make the teams horribly imbalanced. Not only would it be a 3v2, but it's Raven joining, so whatever team she's on would dog walk the other. And then the second thing is, Beast Boy going gorilla and smacking the volleyball off the roof. The first time is fine. He's trying to compete with Cyborg's strength, and it's not like he tried to smack it off the roof, but the second time, like, come on. Literally, the second Raven gives the ball back, he immediately does it again, and then acts all surprised. Like, bro, there's no way you're this stupid. What did you expect to happen after using the same animal with the same force right after you just did it and it went poorly? You can't be serious. The other thing I wanted to talk about in this episode is the two struggles over the rocks that Terra and Raven have. The first one, at first, I felt Raven had overreacted a bit, but after thinking about it a bit longer, I don't think she did. It was a huge piece of earth Terra was trying to chuck at the worm, and the worm's outer shell is made up of all metal, and nothing the Titans have done up to this point has been able to even scratch it, so I highly doubt a big rock would be the answer. And all the other Titans were nearby the worm, trying to stop it, so not only would the rock do virtually nothing to the worm, but the debris and rubble that would fly everywhere after impacting the worm could fall on or hit the nearby Titans, and cause major damage to nearby buildings and possibly civilians. Then the second rock struggle they have, it's obvious Terra is in the wrong. Her bright idea to smash the computer as a first resort is wild. That is the only thing they really have to try and stop the worms from burying their home. Sure, it might be hard to hack into it or figure out how it works, but at least they could have tried instead of 50-50ing it with smashing it. And I mean, her being so against the idea of smashing it because you don't know what would happen was just proven right after when a random piece of rubble falls onto it and destroys the computer, it causes the worms to go faster. Regardless, even if the random rubble destroying the computer would have made it stop and Terra would have been right, Raven being cautious and not immediately wanting to destroy it would still be a reasonable play. There's like 5 other plans to try before jumping straight into smashing the computer.
Then maybe the game isn't over.
The game is never over.
One last round. Winner take all? Sorry, Star. I guess I'm just...
Winner Take All. A fun, amazing, fan favorite, and memorable episode. But one thing I don't understand is how Beast Boy lost his fight against Wildebeest. Now, I'm assuming they wanted to make one of the 3 Titans lose, because you'd probably assume that all of them would just make it to the end, so they wanted to subvert expectations and make it a little more interesting by having someone else beat a Titan, but he should not have lost that fight. That fight was so in his favor, it's actually crazy. It doesn't make sense how him turning into a T-Rex and breaking through the bottom of the cage was what beat him. Why didn't he turn into a bird or a pterodactyl or something that could fly and he just goes right back up? Why did he let himself fall to his defeat? Beast Boy has been shown to use his powers in very unique and clever ways and change his forms on a dime. This episode made it look like he just got his powers and had no idea how to use them. Beast Boy should have never been able to lose that fight, especially in the manner he did. Like they gave Wildebeest super plot armor. I get wanting hero variety and not wanting every Titan to just make it to the finals, but Beast Boy losing here doesn't make any sense to me at all. Robin was also very uncharacteristically gullible in this episode. I know they're making a point, especially with the beginning scene, that he is hyper competitive and super driven to win, because as he says,
Winning isn't everything.
Yeah, it's just the only thing that matters.
but him not being suspicious at all about the Master of Games is way out of character for him. You'd think the son and protege of Batman, and the one who has been shown in the series to pick up on things like slowly realizing Blackfire isn't what she says she is, figuring out that Raven was the cause behind the monsters and fear itself, immediately feeling sus of Terra the second they meet, and figuring out that she can't control her powers, wouldn't just take some random guy's word on everything he says, especially when it has to do with his friends. Like, the losers returned home and he just goes, okay, makes sense to me. Like, how is Cyborg the one sus and you're not even a little bit? If they wanted to go with this storyline, the roles should have been swapped, and Robin been suspicious and Cyborg be the hyper-competitive one. I mean, even Starfire immediately feels something is off when they show up for the Champion of Heroines, yet Robin didn't suspect a thing until the very end. Again, I know he was super driven to win and whatever, but still, this was too out of character for him. I also feel like after Cyborg figured out the Master of Games was lying and something was wrong, he should have went back to Robin. He tried to get Robin's help to look around because he felt the Master of Games was fishy, but Robin just thought he was trying to trick him again, like he did earlier during the card game. After Cyborg gets the evidence and information to prove his suspicion, he should have went back to Robin with it. Because of the way Robin was acting in this episode, he might not have even answered the door again, and even if he did, he still might not have believed Cyborg, but it was definitely still worth a shot, instead of taking the Master of Games head on and losing.
May the best man win. I intend to.
No one will ever defeat the Master of Games. I am.
And the final thing about this episode is, I really wish we could have gotten a Champion of Heroines episode. They teased us with it at the end of this episode, and while I believe they had no plans on actually making it a real episode and just ended it like that for fun, I, as well as many others, I'd assume, would really love to see how that played out. Also, is the Master of Games just unbeatable? When he's defeated, he zaps himself into his necklace, then when the guys go home, he just zaps himself back out and hosts another tournament. Every time he's defeated, can he just hide away in his necklace? And once the coast is clear, come back out?
Beast Boy, if you knew something bad about me, would you still be my friend?
For Betrayal, most of what I want to touch on is again about Terra. So just like the other Terra episodes, I'll hold off on those comments until I talk about Terra herself and the overarching story. But what I will say is, Terra has no right to be mad here. You betrayed Beast Boy, lied to him, and are having his home and friends under attack. So when he gets reasonably upset at you, you don't get to get angry back. You aren't allowed to be angry he's angry. That's psychopathic.
Maybe we should just call you Larry.
My name is Larry now! Yay!
Alright, so Fractured. This is such a weird placement for this episode. They've done this before where they throw a fun little episode to give everyone a breather from the more serious aspects of the main storyline, but putting Fractured, an episode with fucking Larry, in between Betrayal and Aftershock feels so out of place. Betrayal should have been part 1 of a 3-part finale, like season 4 does, instead of separating it. And even if you wanted to separate it, I feel like any of the other non-storyline episodes from this season would have fit better here. Also, again, this episode shows very clearly this is Dick Grayson's Robin, considering Larry has matching DNA with Robin, and Larry's real name is just Dick Grayson backwards. Also, I feel the way Robin interacts and reacts to Larry is how he would have and should have interacted to Teen Titans Go Robin in the Teen Titans Go vs. Teen Titans movie. But instead, Robin was written like a Teen Titans Go character and they made him overly annoyed by him, and never had him come around to him like he does Larry.
And will you destroy the Teen Titans?
I thought you'd never ask.
Now, the season finale, part 1 episode, Aftershock, I don't get why Terra is so over-the-top evil in this episode. I get she's working for Slade, and she was upset at what Beast Boy said to her in Betrayal, but her having fun and enjoying beating up the Titans and taking over the city and turning it to ruin is such a 180 to how she was the whole season. It feels like it just comes out of nowhere. And they try to make the comparison to Terra being Slade's apprentice to Robin being Slade's apprentice, and they are just so incomparable. Robin was his apprentice because he was forced to, or his friends would have been killed. Terra is his apprentice because she chose to. There is nothing forcing her to be his apprentice up until she puts the suit on. So Beast Boy saying to Robin, when you were Slade's apprentice, did we give up on you? Isn't a good argument.
My name is Terra. I have done horrible things, and I have absolutely no regrets.
Now for part 2, the Titans are so good after regrouping and coming up with a plan. This is the second time the Titans lose pretty handedly, and then they come back with such a good and thought out plan to defeat the enemy. First with the Hive, and now against Terra. They use the fog as cover. They attack together. One distracts, the other attacks from behind. They don't let her fly into the air. Every time she tries, they shoot the rock down. If you ever beat the Titans, don't give them time to come back for a rematch because they will beat you.
No more chances.
No more trust.
And no more mercy.
Listen to us, Terra.
Fight to still a friend.
Don't have to do this.
It's your life, Terra. Your choice. It's never too late to change.
So that was a fucking lie.
Tonight we strike, and by sunrise tomorrow, the Titans will be annihilated.
Our first villain up is Warp. Not gonna lie, I have no real strong thoughts or opinions about this guy. I like him because he's the sole reason for my favorite episode, but other than that, nothing about him really strikes me at all. And for some reason, I always mix him up with Dr. Light. I don't know why. Soto is next, and he is just so strange. Not necessarily a villain, he's just a weird alien dude. Atlas is one of those Thunder and Lightning / Fix-It type villains, whose purpose is just to help our characters, in this case Cyborg, figure out more about themselves, and help him develop more as a character. But Atlas is still a cool Lego looking villain. Control Freak is a fun villain, but I can't tell if I like Control Freak for his character or just because of the episodes he's in. This episode and the one later when they go into the TV are such good and fun episodes, but I don't know if I like Control Freak because of that or if I actually just like his character. He seems pretty lame but also funny at the same time, I don't really know. Killer Moth I actually quite like. I think his design is cool and love the whole dynamic of him trying to take over the city and be evil while also trying to be a good father. Next up is the Master of Games. I really like when the Master of Games gets all the powers and uses them all at once. He looks cool and it's cool to see all the powers used together. Even though for Speedy he just shoots arrows out of his fingertips, which is just stupid. But how else do you incorporate a regular ass dude with no powers and a bow and arrow? Also, Master of Games seems unbeatable unless you kill him because he can just hide away in his necklace for as long as he needs. Now for Johnny Rancid, for the longest I thought he was just Lobo and they were doing a Slade with him and just calling him by his real name because they couldn't call him Lobo for whatever reason. But turns out Johnny Rancid is just his own character who is heavily inspired by Lobo. I mean, Johnny Rancid is alright, but to me he just comes across as a guy who's trying too hard to be like a bad boy. Very forgettable and uninteresting enemy in my opinion. And then Cinderblock, Plasmus, and Overload make their reappearance. Nothing much has changed with them other than Plasmus getting his redesign, but the reason I'm mentioning them is because during the finale when they are fused together, that shit goes hard. I don't know how or why they were able to do that, but who cares? It's awesome and fun. And of course, the final villain we will be talking about is Terra. Obviously, Terra doesn't start out as a villain. She starts out as one of the good guys, but then a few bad decisions later, ends up her own gravestone. Her as a character I do like, and I like her and Beast Boy's relationship. I wish she would have been able to stay as a permanent member of the Titans for the rest of the series. She would have fit nicely, and since it was so early on in the series, we could have seen so much more from her. But while I do like Terra as a character, the choices she makes and her motivations just make no sense to me. I get that Terra's character is very driven by emotion, so she does drastic things based on how she feels, but I don't think that can fully justify things that she chooses to do, and the way she acts toward the end. Let's start from the beginning. The Titans first meet Terra while being chased by a monster. After seeing how she's able to defend herself from the monster, and after finding out she has no home, the Titans invite her into the tower, at least for the night. A little later, Beast Boy finds out she can't control her powers. She then starts panicking and begging him not to tell anyone, regardless of his attempts to tell her it's no big deal and the team wouldn't mind and they can help her control them. Then after that, the Titans are in a fight with Slade, and Terra meets Slade in a one-on-one. During this one-on-one, Slade mentions how he knows she can't control her powers and that he could teach her how to control them. But instead of Slade being met with the same combative reaction as Beast Boy when he said the same thing, she doesn't seem to mind he knows and even considers his offer. How does this make any sense? She's friends with the Titans at this point, and the only thing she's seen and heard about Slade have been about how terrible of a dude he is. Yet you can't stand the thought of the Titans knowing you can't control your powers and trying to help you, but don't mind that Slade does and even consider his offer. Now she does reject him here, but obviously that doesn't last long. Then at the end of the episode, Robin has figured out during the fight with Slade that Terra couldn't control her powers and mentions it to her surprise as they invite her to the team. This causes her to get upset with Beast Boy thinking he betrayed her and causes her to run away. I can understand her being a little upset with Beast Boy here. Again, she is heavily influenced by her emotions, so since she thinks Beast Boy betrayed her, she runs. She's not so much angry that the Titans know about her lack of control, even though she doesn't want them to know, but more so that she feels Beast Boy lied to her. But what I can't understand is what she does next. After leaving the Titans, she goes to Slade to help her learn to control her powers. There goes bad and nonsensical decision 1. Again, she's driven by her emotions. I can see her running away feeling betrayed, but then after time to cool off, she should just return and find out Robin just figured it out on his own. But no, she runs to Slade, even though she knows how bad of a guy Slade is, and everything Slade is offering her, the Titans did as well. And the Titans are not only the good guys, but also her friends. This will never make any sense to me. I can't fathom how she came to this conclusion to go to Slade. Then when she returns in Titans Rising, she's working undercover as Slade's apprentice at this point. So she tries to regain their trust and become part of the team so she can help Slade infiltrate the tower at night when the Titans are unprepared. But then at the end of Titans Rising, and all throughout Betrayal, you can see constant regret and sadness come over her every time she has fun or enjoys being with the Titans, because she knows what's about to happen. Then why do it? If you're regretting the decision you're making, why not stop? Nothing is set in stone yet. You haven't let Slade into the tower, you haven't given the Titans up yet. Why not come clean about who helped you control your powers and ask for help against him now? They try to say that Slade was using the fact that he helped her learn how to control her powers as a you owe me situation. But again, Slade is evil. Use him to control your powers, then dip. You don't owe him anything. And it's not like he's controlling you at this point. You're not forced to do this, so why are you? When you're regretting it and aren't happy with it. There goes dumbass brain dead decision 2. That makes no type of sense whatsoever. And the second she hits the point of no return when the tower is under attack and Beast Boy found out she's working for Slade, that's when she wants to take it back and not do it anymore. Like, dog, you had so much time between the beginning of Titans Rising till now to make that decision, yet you wait until it's too late. And I mentioned earlier that after Beast Boy finds out she betrayed them, he gets reasonably upset, and Terra gets upset that he's upset, which is ridiculous. But I think Beast Boy makes a mistake here. Again, he has every right to be mad, but if he would have taken Terra's hand in that moment, she was feeling regretful and wanted to take it back, instead of saying she has no friends and walking away, Terra would still be alive right now. I don't think she'd be allowed to be a member of the team at this point, since they know she can't be trusted, but she'd be alive. She'd still be friends with at least Beast Boy, and now with her controlled powers, she can go out and do good without accidentally harming anyone. Again, this is ultimately Terra's fault, and her tragic ending is still all due to her poor decisions, but Beast Boy, I believe, had an opportunity there that he let his anger cloud his judgment on, unfortunately. Then in Aftershock, again she gets super evil seemingly out of nowhere. Complete character change, acting as if she never liked the Titans from the start and all that. But we do see what I interpret as some ounce of regret still in her. With that scene where she's flying through the destroyed city, as she passes by landmarks, she remembers the good times she had with the Titans. I'm assuming this is showing that deep down she still has some kind of regret for her actions, regardless of what she says. This could have been the reason she turned sides again at the end, but the way the episode plays out, it just seems she did this because the Titans beat her. Basically, while I like Terra as a character, none of her choices make any real sense. I will say though, it's not like I think it's entirely Terra's fault. She just seems like the girl caught in the middle. Slade tracking her down and watching her randomly stumbling onto the Titans and them damn near forcing her into their home, and then the fight with Slade almost immediately right after. She wasn't ready for any of this. She couldn't control her powers, and her emotions tend to get the better of her. She wasn't ready to join the Titans and to go out and be a hero. She was just caught in between two sides pulling her from each of her limbs, trying to get her on their side, and it all happened too fast. So I have sympathy with her there. Now I wanted to take this time here to elaborate on something I said in the last video. In the last video, I mentioned how I felt Plasmus may be the most tragic character in this series, but I wanted to talk about Terra first before really explaining why. The real reason I feel he is simply because it was ultimately Terra's own choices and actions that led her to where she ended up. In Plasmus's case, he had no control or choice on the matter. It's either he's always asleep, living his life away in a coma, or if he's awake, forced to become something he doesn't want to be and do things he doesn't want to do, never able to live his own life. So overall, I still believe Season 2 is better than Season 1. The individual non-story based episodes are better, and the main storyline, even with my issues with it, I still like more than Season 1's. And so now we're at that point where I'm going to share with everyone my top 5 episodes from Season 2. At number 5, we have Betrayal. At number 4, we have Only Human. At number 3, we have, of course, Winner Take All. At number 2, we have Fear Itself. And as I might have spoiled earlier, and you might be able to guess, my number 1 favorite episode from Season 2 is How Long Is Forever. And there we have it, my Teen Titans Season 2 video. These have been really fun to make, and even though it's still only my second video, I feel as if I'm getting better as I go on, so I'm excited to get started on the next season. I want to try to get these out once a month, so hopefully I'll have the Season 3 video out in January, and of course any and all feedback is appreciated. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your top 5 favorite episodes from this season in the comment section, and thanks for watching.